Happy Friday, everybody. It's the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast. I'm Anthony Cosenza, joined by John Sheeran. We're going to be fielding your questions, so you got to get those to us. We'll tell you how to do that in just a couple minutes. But, John, we've got a special guest joining us on the Listener Questions Live. Some people get to hear a much more popular figure than you and I yammering back and forth about the Bengals. We'll bring him in a second. But how you doing, buddy? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, Anthony. It's a good day here in Cincinnati. Hopefully it's a good weekend in East Rutherford, New Jersey for the Cincinnati Bengals. But yeah, let's bring in our guest. I'm sure a lot of you guys know him by his armor. Star Wars is back in the news with the new series on Disney+. Let's bring on the Bengalorian, man.
All right, Bengalorian, a.k.a. Joe Burrow's doppelganger.
What's up, guys?
Joining us from his spaceship there. How you doing, man? Sans armor, no armor, but you're rocking the Cincy lid. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Yeah, good, man. I'm honored to be on the show. I know you've had guys on here like Ocho Cinco, so to be up in that rafter with him on your show is an honor, man.
Well, I appreciate that. And hey, it's been too long since you've been on our show. We did some pregame stuff with you a little while ago. You've been on, I think, last year. It's been way too long. We were going to be joined by Tyler Meinerding. We still might be joined by him. He's had some day job stuff come up. I thought those pesky day jobs, man. They just put a wrench in the works there. But before we get to questions and how everybody can get that, Joe, I'm going to share this because you and Tyler are doing a cool thing locally to kind of throw an Ohio-based tailgate this weekend. The Bengals aren't playing a home game, so gotta get a little creative here. And here is the video on Twitter. Hopefully everybody can hear and see this in just a second here. You and Tyler with all the Bengalorian helmets in front of you here. Here's the announcement.
What's up, guys? This is Bengalorian. I'm here with Tyler Meinerding. We are partnering with Fortwing to bring you guys the ultimate away game experience.
Join us this fall as we bring the tailgate experience here to Springboro, Ohio, for Fortwing. We'll be doing prizes, giveaways, raffles. We are targeting September 25th against the New York Jets at 1 o'clock.
Let's get this done and have a hoot eggs on it.
All right, so you got a big event. You mentioned it. What else is going on? Tell us a little bit more about this as we get started with things. Prizes. Everybody loves prizes. What do you got going this weekend?
Yeah, man. While the Bengals are down there in New York or New Jersey, wherever these clowns play, we are going to be handling business at home here. Pretty much what we wanted to do, guys, is I sit in my living room just thinking like, oh, I'm going to watch the Jets game here and just, have family over. But the thought clicked in my head. I was like, what if I took that environment, ripped it out of my living room, and put it in a bar and invited a bunch of like-minded people? You know what I mean? And Tyler and I both live up here in a suburb of Dayton. So I contacted him and I said, hey, man, let's do this. So we worked it out. Warp Wing reached out to us, and now we're here, man. The 25th, this Sunday. Awesome prize opportunities. But aside from that, a bunch of togetherness, great food, beer, and we get to watch our Bengals get that first win.
Man, do they need that first win. Good Lord. We were talking about before we took the air. Good Lord, they need that first win. And I can tell you, I have tailgated with the Bengalorian, albeit somewhat briefly. I have tailgated with this guy, and he is a lot of fun. So you got to join him. You got to join Tyler. Tyler is also amazing on social media with his Bengal therapy session, Bengal fan therapy sessions, and the recent video he put up of him with T Swift was also pretty killer. So I wanted to announce that. We'll remind folks before we get out of here as well. And we appreciate the cool thing you're doing for fans out there, and we want to definitely promote that. So as we get going here, as we usually do, listener questions live. You can get your questions to us a number of different ways. Live chats, YouTube, Cincy Jungle Facebook page. You can also get to us on Twitter at CJAnthonyCY, at Bengals OBI. You can also hit up the Bengalorian, John on his Twitter account. Any one of us, hit us up. You can email us the obinsider@gmail.com. By the way, the YouTube chats, if you do a super chat, that gets precedent, and it's going to be donated to the Pollock Family Foundation. So we're still supporting that charity. And then, of course, Cincy Jungle Post, you can leave a comment there. We're no excuses. Call, text 949-542-6241. Get into us. Let's get some questions. We had some queued up. But John, do you want to lead us off here?
I can lead us off. So we had one from Dalton Signature in the YouTube comments section. He was asking about a lesser known injury that happened on Sunday with Jesse Bates. He dislocated his middle finger and he popped it right back in, I believe, the very next play with the help of a trainer. He's asking, how much do you think this will be a problem for him this weekend? I've never dislocated a finger before. I can't imagine it's a very pleasant experience, but he did play through it, and I don't think it really hindered him that much in that game. But it is something to, I guess, take into account for. I would imagine it's a lot tougher to catch the football when you only have 9 working fingers. But what do you guys think?
I'm going to let the Bengalorian lead off on this one here.
So I've got some pretty gnarly hands, not Anthony Munoz hands, but I've dislocated a few fingers, and no, man, it's not fun. And I not to the level Jesse Bates played, but I played safety. I played strong safety, so I can only imagine how that's going to affect his ability to play the ball, even do little things like grab a jersey to try and tackle. But I mean, he's tough, man. He's a professional athlete. He's a professional, period. And for him to pop it back in place and just game on, we'll see. I don't think it's really going to affect him that much.
I mean, it's not going to help things by any means. I think we all know that. But the jersey pull thing, that's an interesting thing I didn't really think about. It's mostly, might an interception possibility that comes his way, might that be dropped because of something going on with the finger? Is there, what happens on a tip pass? Any kind of wackiness that could occur there, I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but I think, it's just something that's going to be there. And a guy who's probably got a lot of other things in the back of his mind, though he won't admit it, the contract status and the whole deal. So you definitely want, him to show up and play well. There's been some struggles there, I guess, a little bit. I mean, last week, I think he was late on one of the touchdown plays that was in the end zone. I think there was a couple of plays in the first week too. So again, Bengalorian, I want to get your take on this because I've said this to John too. Bates has kind of been a tale of 2 seasons within a season guy. It's kind of, one half of the season kind of average and then another half is excellent. Or in the case last year, it was kind of regular season was and the postseason was fantastic. I don't know if you agree with that sentiment or not, but that's kind of something I've noticed.
Yeah, I do agree with it. And sometimes, I don't think Bates is a bad player by any stretch, but sometimes it can be frustrating looking back at contract talks and everything that happened. And then you go back and you kind of look at some of the play and you're like, yeah, man, you were like lights out in the playoffs. But what about this? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think he is one of the best in the league. There's no doubt about it, but I just think everything that's gone down with him is unfortunate. I hope we can retain him. I do. I hope we can pay him a fair wage. And I hope he can play football for us for a long time. But I'm not ragging on the guy because he's an incredible athlete and an incredible safety. But I mean, look at Minka Fitzpatrick against us. He absolutely made our lives a living HE-double hockey sticks.
Yep.
And Bates just hasn't done that yet here this season. So I look at that play and I'm like, well, where's that right now? So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them that we've been getting right here in some of our live chats, kind of the same ilk, but they are asked differently from as drastic as how do I live if we lose Sunday? Let's talk about that. I mean, hopefully that's not.
We should probably take precedent for that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that one's just sarcasm there. But and then we've got Chris Swave there also saying, is this do or die? Considering we face Miami and Baltimore the next 2 games, can't be 1-4, 0-5. John, must win this week if the Bengals are to keep their playoff hopes alive. I know 0-2 teams already have a small percentage in making the postseason as it is.
Well, 0-3 teams have an even smaller. In fact, I think it's very close. I think it's very close to 0 at that point. Yeah, it's a must win. It's along with the fact that 0-3 is an incredibly hard hole to dig yourself out of. Just imagine it, man. This is an AFC where things are going to be very tight towards the end of the season. Tiebreakers are really going to matter. You can't drop to 0-2 in the AFC, 0-1 in your own division, you're going to need at least 10 wins to even be a wild card team. And even then, that's a tough path to get through to the playoffs. Win the division, that's probably going to be 11 wins, even if a lot of the other teams in the division kind of beat up on each other. So 0-3 with 14 games to go, you're looking at bare minimum a 10-4 finish against a schedule that objectively is pretty tough compared to other teams, and just seeing how those teams are doing so far, like the Bills and Chiefs, they aren't going to go anywhere. Some other teams, there's still 5 teams left in the division that they haven't played. 0-3 is just an insurmountable hole to dig yourself out of, and no matter really how tough the schedule is for any team or how good or bad a team is, when they're 0-3, it's pretty much a death sentence.
It is. And it's just, if that's the way that Sunday goes, it would be just a shame, because as we talked about before we took the air, it just seemed like such a winnable stretch of games for this team to start the season off. And it's the back end that really seems much more daunting. Bengalorian, I don't know if I have a tough time getting a grasp on this Jets team. They lost in the first week. They came out with an incredible win last week, but all in all, there's some nice pieces there. They've accumulated high draft picks over the past couple of years. It's still Joe Flacco, a guy that's been way up and down against the Cincinnati Bengals in the past. I can't really get my fingers around this team, because it's, I don't feel that they are super threatening, but I also have in the back of my mind, they weren't very good last year, and they really surprised the Bengals.
Yeah, it's like one of those sleeper teams, and I'm gonna get called out for this. Which Ohio State receiver did they take?
Garrett Wilson.
There it is, Garrett Wilson. A guy like that, he can sneak up on you, man. Flacco's old, but he can sneak up on you, man. It's a winnable game. It's a game we should win. Like, we should win this game. We should have won against the Cowboys, and we should have won against the Steelers, right? But this is a game we should win. But look what happened last year, the Mike White game. Like, do we really want a Joe Flacco game? No, I don't think so. But like you guys are saying, man, I think the literal percentage is, like, if we're 0-3, it's like 1.92% to make the playoffs, and that's just a disgusting thing to have think in your head right now after we just had that Super Bowl run last year. Because then after you play these Jets, we go play a scary Miami team. So do you want to be 0-4 on accident? I don't think so.
No, absolutely not. And by the way, Bengalorian's joining us. We're hoping to be joined by his partner in crime, Tyler Meinerding. They are doing a really cool at home, well, kind of at home, at Warped Wing in Springboro, Ohio, a locals tailgate. And we also have legend Bengal Jim. He was joining us a little earlier in the Cincy Jungle Facebook page. He will probably be doing a tailgate out in New York. So if you are going to the Jets game, go to that one. But also go to Warped Wing and join Bengalorian Tyler Meinerding for a really cool local tailgate experience to root on the Bengals. Now, John, there were a couple of comments in our live chat. Did you happen to peruse those?
Yeah, I did. So we got Dan the Man asking an if for this kind of question. So he's asking, what is the bigger concern, the subpar protection of the offensive line or the lack of pressure by the defensive line? I think this is an interesting question to ask, guys, because with the offensive line, it's a myriad of issues, along with not just guys losing reps, but the ball not getting out quicker, and then just the lack of offensive success making the line look a little bit worse. With the defensive line and just generating pressure, that's really just a binary thing. Like, if you're not winning up front, then you're just not winning. It kind of all falls onto you guys. So the fact that Trey Hendrickson hasn't really had a great game, they haven't really involved Joseph Tsai as of yet, and that may still be yet to come. DJ Reader's been their best pass rusher, bar none, and that's not ideal from a nose tackle position. So is the defensive line struggles kind of creeping up to the offensive line struggles? Because we've talked ad nauseum about the offensive line.
I would say offensive line for me is still far more of an issue and far more of a concern, because you have 4 new starters. You invested all this money in free agency to fix it. It was a major problem last year. And it's not just, you're not getting pressure and affecting the opposing quarterback. Your franchise quarterback is being very, very negatively affected by all the hits, the pressures, the sacks, all of that. And so there's a domino effect with that. And then you're not even running the ball well at this point. So to me, the fact that all of the assets that were placed into fixing the offensive line, it was perceived as the only real weakness of the Cincinnati Bengals going into this year. That's a problem. I did think that the Cincinnati Bengals defensive line may was going to maybe take a tiny step back this year, because I really felt Larry Ogunjobi was a big key to a lot of what they did last year. I know he was a rotational guy. BJ Hill is effective. Hendrickson's there. And I also hold out hope that Hendrickson's going to kind of start to get things together here. I do worry about the amount of snaps that he and Hubbard took at the end of the run last year. They kind of were out there for a lot of snaps, and so hopefully that's not kind of carrying over here. But for me, I still think it's the offensive line. Bengalian, I don't know about you.
Yeah, same, definitely. I think the defensive line will figure it out. I think the offensive line will figure it out. But I don't want Burrow to just, I don't know, all of a sudden get the yips because he's afraid to get hit, which he's a gamer, man. We all know Joey B's mind, so that probably won't happen. But it's in the back of my head, how much punishment can this kid take? And we know it's a ton. We know he's a tough guy, but I don't want him to take it. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I think that they'll figure it out. Like I was saying earlier before we kind of kicked it into gear here, I just think we had a weird offseason again. And I'm not blaming the woes of the offseason, but we had Collins out and not consistently practicing. The Jackson Carman, Cordell Volson novel at this point was kind of a back and forth that was happening. And I don't know, just new guys need to come together and gel, and I think they will. Not to mention our quarterback's organs decided to explode in his body, so he wasn't back there commanding the offensive line like he should in the preseason. But they're going to get it together, man. I got full faith and confidence.
My Lord, could they just have a normal offseason once in the Joe Burrow era? That would be, I mean, even before the year prior, right? AJ Green breaks his ankle before things get started. It's like, can you just have a normal offseason? That would be just so lovely if we could do that. We're going to look to the Cincy Jungle post and the comment threads there. And there is one here, and I this is such a hard question because so many people have differing opinions on a key word in this, but I'll ask it anyway. Bengal Growl. Why is the coaching staff taking so long to make offensive adjustments? And that adjustments word is really kind of up to definition and if you think that's a real thing or not. But it seems like no adjustments until midway through the second quarter, or worse, the second half. Does Zach have too much on his plate? Obviously referencing Zach Taylor being the offensive play caller for the Bengals. I don't know, John, what do you think?
Yeah, we also had a question from Chris Swave. He was asking how many slow starts before Zach Taylor starts to get blamed happened last year often and is consistent in the Zach Taylor era. I think in general, the general rule of thumb is that the first 15 plays are usually scripted. That's what you install in practices that week, according to what you're game planning against or what you believe the defense is going to do. Ben Solak put out a phenomenal article today on theringer.com diagramming the issues with the Bengals offense right now. And it's kind of been the same thing in the Joe Burrow era, this marriage of a wide zone running game under center with a spread shotgun passing game. It's very predictive from a pre-snap sense. So you have defenses, putting the safety down when Burrow is under center because 80% of the time it's going to be a run. And then when Burrow's in shotgun, they put the safeties back because 95% of the time it's going to be a pass. And then defenses can just stay in their keys. They watch this on tape all throughout the week. They know what's going to come, and it's easy for them to just go and play natural because they are expecting it, while the Bengals offense is trying to do the same things week in and week out, and they keep running into walls in the first a handful of drives in the game. So the adjustments naturally come, in the second quarter after you get through those plays that you expect to work against that defense. And then you're noticing the tendencies that the defense is patrolling out there in the first quarter or two. So I don't think it's necessarily an issue of the adjustments coming too late. It's mainly just an issue of a lack of diversity and a lack of creativity with what you're trying to do. And I think they made some hints of progress this past Sunday, throwing a little bit more under center, drop back play action with Burrow and marrying that with the run game, a little bit more inside zone. So they're making small steps, but clearly it's just not enough.
It's not enough. And Bengalorian, I saw you wanted to chime in on that.
I agree. I want to see creativity. I'm not ready to, kick Zach out the door like some people are on social media, but social media is a cesspool, so we won't get into that. But that's where I exist. So believe me. But I'm not ready to kick him out the door yet. I do want to see some of that creativity we had last year. John brought up the points. When Joe's under center, you're like, oh, okay, Mixon's getting this, right? So, or if he's in the shotgun, safeties can kind of, slough back or hedge their bets because they know the ball is going to come out if the pass rush doesn't get to Joe. So, yeah, I want to see diversity in play calling and some creativity, kind of just like he said there.
That brings up, and I'm going to stick with you here, and I want to hear from John on it too, but that brings up a really interesting point because there's a specific player I think we would maybe have thought that we would have seen a lot, well, maybe not a lot more, but at times this year. And he seems like a guy that would be a change of pace player on offense, and that is Chris Evans. Are you surprised that we have not seen anything from Chris Evans on the offensive side of the ball?
I am surprised, and I am like bang the table for him to be in. Like during those preseason games, like every time he made a play, like I would just tweet Chris Evans. Like you just need to utilize the kid. Like I know he dealt with some crap in college, and that's why he didn't get this like premier look in the league right when he got here. But like he's clearly very, very talented and very, very versatile. I would love to see him back there on, I don't know, like those, like when we run those screens out in the flats, like him catching it, my God, that would be incredible to watch him. You saw him, how he can read the field, read the defenders, and make those cuts. It's incredible. We need to establish a running game in the first place, but like it would be incredible to see him out there. There's a lot of talented players there we got at running back, but Evans needs a light on him, I think.
Yeah, John, it's not like he's being. I know the thought could be, hey, he's valuable to kickoff returns. He's not even touching the ball on kickoff returns. Every one of them is. So it's like it's not like he's being heavily utilized there. And then you look at maybe what happened just in flashes last year, late in the year, and then also that big play against the Lions. And you go, this is the kind of stuff and the mismatches that he provides that this offense could be missing. I just, obviously the pass protection thing is probably something that's in the coaches' minds at this point. They really trust P. Ryan in that respect. But I mean, I'm still at a loss why he's not out there a handful of snaps a game.
You know what it is for me? Like in this offense, I think we've established that there's just not a ton of schematic creativity to create opportunities for playmakers to just make plays with ease. Usually the big plays happen because the special players are special and they make it happen on their own. And with Chris Evans, I think we can all understand that he's a very phenomenal athlete for his size, for his position, for his age. He's just, when the ball's in his hands, like he can make more things happen than Samaje Perine. So I feel like that kind of outweighs like maybe a lack of trust issues or maybe like him not practicing that well. He seems to fall into the lines of a guy who just doesn't do enough things between Monday morning and Saturday afternoon, whereas Perine kind of does everything right, and they trust him to be in the right positions. Every time Perine gets the ball, he's like the running back version of Drew Sample. You don't expect anything out of him. He loses his balance a little bit often. It's like it's a solid 4 or 5 yard catch and run from him, but other than that, like it's not a boom or bust type of deal. And when you're lacking explosive plays, like you need as many guys on the field as possible to do that. So with Evans, even if he isn't being trusted in pass protection, even if he isn't trusted to read his gaps correctly, which I think there were some issues with that in the preseason. We kind of saw but behind the mirror with that. Even if those issues exist in this offense, it's not like you're scheming him open or scheming him great opportunities anyways. Just let him go be a special player.
Yeah, I just don't get it. P. Ryan, obviously the coaches trust him immensely. I mean, he was one of Zach Taylor's very first waiver wire pickups in his very first year. Picked him up right before that Seattle game. I remember it vividly. And then he kind of was doing special team stuff and then getting some more time as a backup running back. But and he's provided sparks here and there. P. Ryan has. I mean, you go back to the Chiefs game last year, had a nice run for a touchdown, and here and there, he's provided some sparks. And it's not about get him out of the lineup. It's per se. It's like use Evans wide receiver 4. Right. Yeah. You can do 2 back sets. Those things exist. I mean, they're not using any of that really.
When you need a blitz pickup, I have no issue having Perine out there. Like he's proven that he can do that. That's his role. But other than that, like at this point, you might need to start implementing Evans a little bit more.
This is a wild comparison, and I catch flack for it within my own friend base. And I'm not saying he is him, But when I watch Chris Evans play, he reminds me a little bit of Reggie Bush. And I know that's a crazy comparison, but just the shiftiness, the way he sees the field, and the way he can get in and get out. Like, it's just, I don't know why. I just see him play and I'm like,
There's a little bit of that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that in him. And again, that's a wild comparison. But
Well, no, the tall, leaner, taller, leaner back that has some elusiveness to him. It reminds me, and this is probably going to go the other way, and it reminds me of the one good year that Chris Perry had with the Cincinnati Bengals in 2005 when they used him a lot of different ways. He caught, I'd have to go back, I think, like 50 balls or something in 2005. He was a nice weapon. So was Kenny Watson after him. Why not use a player like that? I know we're going back 15, 17 years, and obviously offenses have evolved, but it's a security blanket player. It's a guy who's got an athletic profile. Use them like that. Bengalorian, also, if you have, I know it's a little difficult to see comments maybe through the phone if you're doing it through your phone, so I don't mean to gloss over you. If you see a question, for sure shout it out. We do have a text come in from Dre in the 513. Would it be a good idea for team management to bring in an experienced offensive play caller as offensive quality control or special assistant to the head coach to help Zach with in-game play calling? I assume also this could be pointing to some of the missed things in game in week one. You're talking about not challenging that Jamar Chase touchdown and whatnot. Maybe that goes hand in hand with that question, John.
Let's get this out of the way real quick. Malik Wright was on his show, Sit Down with Malik Wright, which you can catch on Twitter, I believe, a couple times a week. And he, obviously he's well plugged in with the organization. Everything that he says is typically true. He got a text this week with an emphatic response that says, like, Zach Taylor in no way, shape, or form is ever giving up play calling duties. I feel like this conversation could just stop right then and there. And as far as like a specialist to be brought in as like a consultant or like some type of experienced veteran quality control guy, maybe. I think just in general, just the conversation about him giving a play calling is like, it's going to go to Brian Callahan. And then you have to understand and realize, like, why was Brian Callahan brought in under Zach Taylor in the first place? Because Brian Callahan's dad is Bill Callahan. Bill Callahan obviously coached Zach Taylor at Nebraska. Bill Callahan, his whole thing is wide zone. The problem right now is the fact that they're trying to marry the Rams running game with LSU's passing game, and it's not a relationship that has a lot of chemistry. It's hard to mesh those two. So it's not like Callahan comes in with a whole bunch of fresh new ideas from a whole different type of a background. So the idea of getting someone from the outside kind of in the Joe Brady type area, just because he has that experience with just marrying both the running game and the passing game under Burrow, like, that would make some sort of sense. But just the idea of Zach giving up play calling duties in general, it would go to Callahan. I don't think things would change that much just because of his own background.
It's a good point. Bengalorian, I don't know if you've got some extended thoughts on that, but I saw you nodding. I think when the Bengals brought in Zach Taylor, that was part of the package deal. He's going to call the plays, right? I mean, that was kind of the sales job, if you will, or the interview process with him. It's, if we're going to bring in this bright, young, offensive-minded guy from that innovative Rams system, he's going to call the plays. Now, he's going to probably lean on other guys, Callahan and others, that to help him with a number of different things. But this is kind of what some of the coaches do, some of the offensive-minded coaches do in the NFL. They just kind of take that. Doesn't Andy Reid do that? Isn't that one of his or he has? That's been kind of one of the knocks against the enemy. He doesn't call the plays, right? So I mean, you see this here and there from other offensive-minded coaches, and so I don't see it. I don't see it changing anytime soon.
Same, yeah. Like you both said, yeah. If it's not Zach, it's Callahan. And honestly, if you week 3 or week 4 or whatever, you just decide to bring someone in, you just completely upset the dynamic of everything happening and don't give it a chance to right itself. So, yeah, I think we just put that to bed, honestly.
Yeah. Where are we going next, John?
Let's see here. We got something in the post comment section from Cincy Mike 21. He's asking, is Joe Mixon getting too much of a pass? Everyone talks like he is an elite back, but he doesn't look like it this year. He is way behind Nick Chubb and Najee Harris in the AFC North. Chris Evans needs more carries. We already talked about Chris Evans a little bit, but Bengalorian, like, what do you see out of Joe Mixon this year? Obviously, when talking about running backs, the offensive line is a huge component. in that discussion, but do you see like a difference in him just working with what he's got, and maybe like there's just something that's not quite there that was in years past?
No, I think he'll get into a rhythm. I think that we've played crappy football for 2 games, and that's what you need to amount that to, honestly. Joe Mixon is a professional, just like I said, Jesse Bates is a professional. And as soon as this line gels together this week against New York, baby, I think that Joe Mixon is gonna show everyone in the league why we revere him the way we do. Nick Chubb is a special running back. There's no denying that. Najee Harris is probably going to be a special running back, but I also think Joe Mixon is a very, very special running back, and he's going to show the world why.
I'm in agreement here. I think that, look, as dumb as the adage is, or whatever you want to call it, he gets better with more carries, or he gets better as the game goes on. We've seen that from Joe Mixon. We have seen that. Go back to the Raiders game, not the playoff game. Go back to the Raiders game last year in the regular season, where the Bengals just kind of pounded the Raiders. And as the game wore on, he was getting those chunk plays, and those chunk plays were coming. He is a rhythm guy. But at the same time, you also, as we talked about with the Evans thing, you got to balance that with, we got to find a spark somewhere. If this isn't working right now, you got to be able to find other ways to make it work. I think the frustration with Mixon, we talked about it Wednesday, John, was, just a lack of making that first guy miss. Unfortunately, that first guy is often in the backfield already touching him when he gets the handoff. Whether that's scheme, whether that's Joe Mixon being too patient and trying to find the big play, whatever. It's a combination of factors probably, but that's something that's plaguing them. And I'm with Bengalorian on this one. I think you're going to see, as time goes on, a better brand of football, better performance up front and in the running game. I think, quite honestly, and again, this is kind of one of those stupid cliches, but it just feels like the offense, based on who they have, what they did last year and everything, they're just trying to do too much. They're trying to get that big play right away and big play every time. And it doesn't, that's why you saw Burrow force balls in the first week. That's why you're seeing some, there's a clip of Mixon where he didn't cut back last week, where he could have cut back inside and made a nice gain. Instead, I think it was a loss. You're seeing those types of decisions. And I think it's just because they're trying to pop the big play, and they're getting in their own way a little bit. I know it's cliche, but that's just a little bit how I feel about what's going on these first couple of weeks.
No, I think that makes sense, because when I watch Nick Chubb, it's almost like he does so little but so much at the same time. Like, there's no wasted movement in the way that he runs. Now, the Browns have a really good offensive line. He's got ample space to really make the reads that he needs to make, but everything in his body is like synchronized, and he doesn't, like you alluded to, he doesn't always look for the big play, but the big play just finds him because he always puts himself in the right position. When I watch Mixon, it's almost like I hear like the old cartoon voice where like his legs are moving faster than his body. You know what I mean? And then he gets a little bit off balance. And I think that's where a lot of the balance issues come from, and the fact that he isn't able to make a guy miss, or he isn't able to brush off, a shoestring tackle, because he's trying to get upfield as fast as possible. And maybe, like, we talk about Burrow getting the yips behind the bad offensive line. I think Mixon, at this point, like 6 years in, he's dealt with such bad blocking in his career that he almost doesn't trust those blocks to open up, so he moves at a faster pace than what he should be. And that's not a good quality to have when you're reading wide zone going from outside to in. You have to be a naturally patient back, and he was that at Oklahoma, which is why they felt like he was a good fit within the system. So now, me and Anthony talked about this on Wednesday, like if they're transitioning more to a gap scheme type of a run game where it's more downhill, that might honestly benefit Mixon in just the way that he is now, just for him to get downhill as quick as possible.
That's a great point about, we're obsessed with the line play getting into Burrow's head potentially. I mean, go back to, man, do you remember that 2018 line that Joe Mixon got 1,000 yards behind? I mean, we're talking about Clint Bowling, and really that's about it. I mean, it's that was what he had to run behind that. We're talking about, oh boy, should we even bring up his name? His father might be listening, and the old Alec. Okay, we're not going to bring up Mr. Redmond. All right, we got a question from Victor Pate, who is he comments a lot on our YouTube channel. Great listener. Appreciate the question from him. Interesting, kind of continuing with the running back theme here. What about using a fullback, tight end / P. Ryan in the backfield as a lead blocker on occasion? Wouldn't this cause a Tampa 2 pre-snap look change if a defense stays in a Tampa 2 run it? I mean, I think that's kind of the knowledge with as to combat that scheme, and then potentially you start bringing those safeties up, and then you start finding some things deeper. I think that's kind of the knowledge here, Bengalorian. But I think that Bengals try to do some of this with Sample. Now he's hurt, so they may have to figure out, using something else there, or these 2-back sets.
Well, before Sample, it was Hubbard. Hubbard was our fullback. So I don't know if you're throwing Hubbard back there at fullback. I don't. I love fullback football, man. That's like gritty football.
Throwback.
But I don't know that that's our identity. I don't see it happening. Yeah, I guess that's my answer. I just don't think that's our identity. We've got this receiving core, and even if you're saying the fullbacks, you're on a mental journey with me right now. I'm dissecting the question. Sorry, but even if the fullback is back there to maybe trick those safeties and make them bite, and then everybody can beat them on the backside, deep thirds. I don't know. I think that's just not our identity to have that back there. But hey, I could be wrong, and if it works, let's go win some football games.
Man, if we want to talk about predictability on offense, if you put a fullback back there and you don't pass it at all, like, of course, the safety is going to come down. That box is going to be full, and it's just a matter of if you can have 7 blockers instead of 5 this time. Again, unless they start passing out of play action under center and they start just basing the offense around what their running game looks like in pre-snap, it's not really going to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to be here a few more minutes, getting some questions and whatnot coming our way. And again, the Bengalorian and Tyler Meinerding. Tyler was set to join us, unfortunately could not, had a day job thing come up here, but they are throwing a really cool event at Warp Wing in Springboro, Ohio, kind of a home tailgate for an away game. Drinks, food, prizes, all kinds of stuff. So definitely join that. What kind of grub do they have there? It sounds like obviously buffalo wings of some kind, right? So,
dude, so the Springboro location has a giant smoker on the side, and they do smoked wings, like you name it, they smoke it. And I had an opportunity to eat up there a few times prior to getting this event together, and it's a can't miss. If you're there, get their food, get their smoked wings. They've got Trotwood, which is a great light game day beer. I mean, you can't miss there. The location's great. We were fortunate enough to get a hold of their party room. So we'll have that area. You'll be able to walk up to their bar. As you guys have seen me throwing out on Twitter, we're doing all kinds of giveaways from KB art, some of the Devin Young custom Air Force Ones. We got one of those I'm giving away at halftime. We've got gift baskets and just knickknacks that we're going to give away at like TV timeouts and in the quarters. And beyond that, it's just going to be a fun time. The location's great too.
Well, it's awesome. You are one of the great Bengals fan ambassadors, as I have titled them. So it's really cool that it's really cool what you do for the fan base. And I know this is a really cool event, and we wanted to kind of get the word out as if we have any kind of close to a social media presence as big as yours, but whatever we can do to kind of get some people there and have more fun, we're all about it. John, where are we going next as we start to wind things down here in a few minutes?
So we got an AFC North question here.
I saw that one, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we can all agree that the Steelers, their lone win of the year might be against the Bengals at this point. So you got the Browns and you got the Ravens. The Browns have, I think, 8 more games left with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback before they get that other guy back there under center. And then you got Baltimore, who probably should be 2-0 right now. It sans a fourth quarter disaster against the Dolphins. So, Anthony, who do you think right now, as of right now, is the bigger threat in the AFC North?
Baltimore. Baltimore is the biggest threat. I mean, I think, I credit to the Browns in a way. They're kind of keeping things together without their true starting quarterback. I don't even know. I mean, Deshaun's talented. I mean, all the other crap aside, Deshaun is talented. We all know that. But we're talking a year and a half away from football at this point that he has not played. And we're talking about potential rust of Bengal starters who didn't get preseason work and all of that. How much rust do you think potentially Deshaun Watson may have going in? And it's not even coming back to his old team and familiar people. It's all new people. So to me, I think Lamar's been looking pretty good. But here's the thing again, you go back to last week. This is what really chaps me about the Bengals dropping that game against Dallas. That was a golden opportunity to just gain a lot of ground for the Bengals. That division lost, and they lost in wacky ways. And I guess the good news is if the Bengals do get things back on track, Bengalorian, it's that this division seems attainable and that all of these teams in a way seem beatable. But for me, it's the Baltimore Ravens that seem to be the biggest threat.
I agree. Yeah, the Steelers stink. I'm happy they stink. Forget about them. Take Trubisky out, put Pickett in, whatever. 1 + 1 = 1. They're the same thing. I don't have any really faith in the Browns defense. I know they have like Denzel Ward and Taki was making, that's just a fun name to say, so I had to say it, but making some plays back there. But really, I mean, God, if we can contain, you're not stopping Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, them and even with Creepy back there when he comes back in 11 weeks or whatever, I'm not too scared of him, but Baltimore looks special, man. Bateman's a freak. Lamar Jackson is him. I mean, he is Lamar Jackson. He's a guy during that draft that was on the board, and I was like, hey, Cincy, go get that guy. So, yeah, I don't know, man. But Baltimore, I think, is a scary team. So those games are going to be good this year. I don't think it's going to be 41 to whatever they put up against us. But we'll have to see, honestly. But I'm with you, Baltimore.
And I think the question is just interesting because the Browns probably should be 3-0 right now without their quarterback. And I think Anthony brought up a great point. Like, we have no idea what Deshaun's going to look like when he comes back. There'll probably be some rust, but if they can keep their heads above water, they're going to be in the conversation with the AFC. But Baltimore looks scary right now because Lamar seems to have taken that next step, like we all believe he probably would have. And that was the biggest thing that was holding them back, like in the playoffs and towards the end of the past couple of regular seasons. From the Bengals' perspective, like you talked about, if they can contain Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they still haven't been able to do that. Like, the Bengals haven't had a lot of success against the Browns, and even if Brissett's out there throwing for 220 and a touchdown or two, like, that's still an offense that has given the Bengals a lot of fits in recent years, whereas they've managed to limit Lamar Jackson to a certain extent. But if Lamar is figuring things out in ways that he hasn't before, like, that's just a really tough task.
Lamar
we're
is
gonna
special.
Yeah.
We're going to start closing up. Yeah, go for it.
One more. Do you think there's that big of a difference between Baker and Brissett back there when we play the Browns?
Yes, because I think Brissett is a little bit smarter and a little more wiser. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I go the other way with it because Baker absolutely lit us up every single week. He would play like crap all these other weeks, and then against the Bengals, for some reason, he would come in and have the best game of his life. That's why I thought actually he was going to win the first week, because he's always storyline guy. He's always passion player guy, right? I just felt like he was going to go in and you know, he's been that way. It seems like all these weird storylines followed him in these big games against the Bengals, and he showed up. And then other times, you know, against other teams, he completely disappeared, injured or whatever. But I mean, Brissett's just kind of doing just enough, you know, and then of course they're leaning on the run game and doing that. But I think there is a difference. But all right, so we've got our buddy Terrell on the line. We had a couple of other calls come through. We're going to try and sneak another one or two in if we can. But Terrell, our guy, we haven't spoken to him actually since the season started. He's always kind of Mr. Optimist, and now we're 0-2, Terrell. So what's going on, my man? What's on your mind?
How you guys doing? I've been busy, man. My brother's wedding, man. Just came back from Atlanta a couple of weeks ago and stuff. But
well, it's good to hear from you.
I just been. It's been a rocky, weird road. And I just believe that. I mean, I think we're gonna make it to the wild card and still make it up to the division.
Okay.
Long story short, I'm already looking at tight ends and offensive tackles.
For next, what are you talking about? Next off season?
I'm in college. I'm looking at UC2 tight ends. I'm looking at Eric Al from UD.
Okay.
I'm looking at tackles. I'm looking at everything. But I'm just saying, I think they still are very too talented to lose.
Okay.
And what I was gonna tell you is real quick. if we go like 9-8 or 9-7, and we need a division game to win to go to the playoffs in the last game, and somehow, some way, play calling come involved, I'm sorry, man. I might be looking at Lincoln Riley.
Oh, Lincoln Riley. Oh, my gosh. Walk off right there. All right, Trell. Good to hear from you, bud. Oh, boy. I don't even know if I want to go the Lincoln Riley route. He's already turning my Trojans around, so I'm kind of like, let's leave that guy where he is. But I at this point, I mean, I think kind of the overarching theme, I know 0-2 start, and I think we all think the Bengals will kind of get back on track, or at least we hope they will, starting this week. But, I kind of had the team at, an 11-6 record, I think, at this point, when I was going through the schedule at the beginning of the year. I think that probably drops a little bit now. I mean, as you guys kind of sit here, he thinks maybe the Bengals are looking at 9 or 10 wins. Where do you kind of sit now after dropping the first 2 games, and you're coming up against this tough stretch towards the back end? But the Titans are also 0-2, I believe. That was a team that was supposed to be pretty tough on the schedule. They're 0-2. And then you've got some other questions about other teams down the stretch. I don't know, Bengalorian, how do you walk us off the ledge, my friend? What are you thinking?
15-2, baby. I don't even know if that's the right math. Is that the math? Yeah.
Math.
I think I have us at like a 12-win team. I do. I really do.
Okay.
These 2 losses were super unfortunate. But I think that our guys are going to learn from it and apply that to some of these more difficult games, and we're going to be better for it. And I think we're probably going to win a couple games that big media and a lot of people are saying, oh, man, they're 0-2. There's no way they're going to win in week, 8 against whoever. They're going to kick their butts if they keep playing like this. But I think we turn the ship around, and I think we're at 11 and 12 wins. That's where I'm at.
John?
I think he brought up a good point, because this team, and someone said in the comments section earlier today, it's classic Bengals to lose the games where you expect them to win and to surprise you when you expect them to lose. Like, it's been a theme for as long as I can remember.
Long time.
Following this team. So we talked about, like, the schedule gets harder as the year goes on, when they're in a situation where, like, every game is in danger of falling further behind in the AFC North. Like, I think you trust the core of the locker room and the coaching staff at this point to get things right when things matter. Like, they found out how to win tough games this past year. Like, all the regression talk aside, like, I think that is an important step in their growth. Despite some guys leaving, the core leadership of this team is still intact, and they've experienced how to make it in tough situations. And beyond that, like, I think Jay Morrison wrote this in The Athletic this week, just about gauging what the vibe is at 0-2. Von Bell and DJ Reader and Trey Hendrickson were on the last 2 teams to start out 0-2 and still make the playoffs. The Saints did it in 2017, I believe, and the Texans did it in 2018. So they have guys who have literally been in this situation before and have still went on to make it into January. And once you're in January and hopefully you have things figured out to the point where you can consistently compete on offense, all bets are off at that point. So I still think this team should be around 9 and 10 wins, and they are typically due for wins against really quality opponents. And they got plenty of those in the next coming weeks.
Yep, and the hope is that they pull kind of a Steelers and play their best ball at the end of the season. Not the very, very end, but towards the back half of the season, especially against those quality teams. A lot of good ones in the AFC that they'll be playing going forward. Well, we've been here almost 50 minutes here, and our boy Bengalorian, he's got to get some adult beverages. That's the problem with me living where I live, and you guys live where you live. Happy hour, you guys are like on happy hour when I'm on like lunch. So It's like, oh man. But again, join the Bengalorian, join Tyler Meinerding at Warped Wing in the city again, Springboro, Ohio. Yeah. And what time do things kick off?
So they open at 11. Show up when you want, but the real party starts at kickoff. I'm going to immediately, right before kickoff, go into a giveaway to kind of get people in the mindset that it's a kind of an interactive event. Where I'm going to be up on stage hollering, and I say stage, up front, hollering, giving stuff away.
On a keg? You're going to be on a keg?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe you'll see some do a cake stand, man, in the armor. I'll see how that works out. But
awesome.
but seriously, join us, Springboro, this Sunday. plenty of prizes, amazing food, amazing beer, and an even better time. So.
Well, thanks for hanging with us, man, and answering some questions, having some fun talking Bengals, and awesome that you are doing this home tailgate for an away game. Hopefully, this becomes maybe a semi regular thing. I know there's a lot of work behind that, but again, you're doing cool stuff for the fans and giving away all kinds of stuff, and it just kind of shows your character and your passion for the Bengals and the Bengals fans out there, man. So thanks for joining us and hanging out with us and throwing this big at home tailgate.
Yeah, man. Hooday. Glad to be on, and don't be a stranger. I'll come on and talk to you guys anytime. Yep.
Awesome. Come back soon. Go have some drinks for me.
All right, man. Hooday.
All right. Take care.
See you, man.
Great guy. Love that guy. Well, we're gonna take off as well. I want to remind folks, of course, if you do want to, and Hooday right here, the user Hooday, asking a question, I guess we'll answer that on our way out here, but how it's possible that Joe Burrow is on pace to get sacked more than last year. Well, the reason we're getting this, because those YouTube super chats, they go to the Pollock Family Foundation and they take precedence. So givesendgo.com/Pollock Family Foundation. This donation will go to that. I don't know, John, I guess we can walk off with this one. How do you explain that one? I don't really have a great explanation for it.
Football is football. Stuff happens. No, man, it's a combination of an offensive line not playing up to par and a quarterback that is still trying to figure out how to beat some of these coverages, and an offensive play caller who's still trying to figure out the concepts of which to do so. And it's a lot of miscommunication. It's a lot of waiting for things to happen, and it's two defensive lines featuring two of the best edge rushers in the league. It's a giant powder keg of explosion, which leads to 13 sacks in 2 games. He's not going to get sacked 100 times this year. Like, he's not going to get sacked probably more than, well, I don't think he's going to get sacked more than 60 times. Anything below that is probably fair game.
I did find it interesting, and I did find the analysis pretty astute in David Carr weighing in on this, because David Carr was one of those guys, first overall pick to an expansion team, and obviously got kind of beat up throughout his career. And then, that's kind of been the talk, is if you don't protect your franchise quarterback, they're never going to reach their full potential. Obviously, even getting beat up last year from a sack, quarterback hit standpoint, Burrow did reach his potential, and still has more potential to reach, but it's going to take, like you said, better concepts, better play from the tackles. You would expect I mean, I don't mean to single out anybody, but really the tackles have been the most surprising. I was going to figure that those are going to be the two most talented players on this line, and they have lost a lot of one-on-one matchups again against some very good edge rushers going forward. But man, they have really not made life easy back there.
They have not, and I mean, they signed Lyle to be better than this. They re-upped Jonah Williams for another year to be better than this, and I think that's the expectation. Good players typically find ways to bounce back and to perform up to expectations. So it's a long season, but Joe Burrow said it, 15 weeks to go. People need to do their best to try to relax and have fun on Sunday.
I think the Bengals offense also kind of needs to take that same. Hopefully, he's talking to the collective, right? Not just the Bengals fans, not just the reporters, but also the people on his offensive unit, where it's like, hey, like we said Wednesday, for me, I think impatience has kind of been a thing that's been plaguing him a little bit. Just always wanting to get that big play right now. Got to have it now. And it's like, let's work to get that. Sometimes it's not going to be there as easy as it was towards the beginning of last year, and that's being proven. But our thanks to the Bengalorian. Sorry we couldn't get Tyler Meinerding on. He had something come up at the old day job, but we'll get him on in the future, talk about some things. Maybe we'll get him on next week, and he can tell us about how the event went. Maybe we'll do something like that. But John, have a good weekend, man. You feeling pretty good about how things are going to go this Sunday?
Well, not exactly.
I know how you picked Wednesday, but I'm just wondering if 2 days now have passed and you're going, hey, my mind has changed a little bit.
I think it's going to be a really tough game, and I don't have a ton of confidence that the Bengals are actually going to be able to do it, but that's typically where they prove me wrong. So I'm very excited to find out.
Well, we would love from last year's Jets script to be flipped for the Bengals, and that they walk out of there with a win and start righting the ship here. But thanks for everything, John. Appreciate it. And our thanks to the Bengalorian for joining us as well. Have a good weekend. We've had a lot of stuff thrown at you on the podcast channel, whether it's our show, the preview with Believe in Jets host Andrew Golden, our listener questions live with the Bengalorian, Bengal Jim's Talking Football episode And then, of course, we had Matt Minnick bringing you a nice episode as well on the channel. So hopefully you have enjoyed all of the stuff we've been bringing you. We appreciate the support. John, have a good Friday, man. You off to do something fun, or you got to hammer away at some work here?
I got like a dozen beers in the fridge to be drank, so
good for you.
Yeah.
Again, it's 12:05 here. I can't do that yet. But
time is an illusion, man.
That's right. Well, take care, dude.
You as well.